For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. You're listening to our latest episode for the week of August 19th, 2024. I'm here today with my politics team colleagues, Avi Bajpai and Kyle Ingram. We are 80-something, maybe even like upper 70s-something out from the election. We're going to talk about fundraising in the legislature on the House side and the latest polling in the presidential race, which, of course, is a factor with everything going on in North Carolina, as well as DNC is this week. And anyway, let's get started with you, Kyle, and talk about Republican and Democratic fundraising in the House and the heir apparent of the next Speaker of the House, Destin Hall. So what's going on?
Yeah, so the Republicans in the House have relied on this fundraising structure where the Speaker has been a really top fundraiser for everyone in the caucus. He's helped to deliver money to different House members who otherwise may not have gotten as much attention in their campaigns and really been the top fundraiser typically in every cycle. So Speaker Moore, he served 5 terms as Speaker. He's leaving to run for Congress. It's most likely going to be Representative Destin Hall, the current rules chair, that replaces him. And we reported this week that Hall is already stepping into this fundraising role. He's brought in over $1.5 million so far this election. And we reported he is planning or has given $1 million of that to the caucus, which, according to the caucus director, is the single largest individual transfer to the caucus in history.
So how much really is fundraising a factor? Do you think that Destin Hall ended up getting the support from the caucus or the current caucus? Obviously, with the election, it's not going to be the exact same people. And Keith Kidwell had mentioned that he wanted to be Speaker, and that, Majority Leader Bell had already stepped aside for Destin Hall. Do you think his ability to fundraise was a big part of why he ended up getting that support, or the fact that Speaker Moore liked him, or all of it?
Well, I think both of those things certainly would have helped. We're seeing these big numbers come in after he's already been pretty much announced as the incoming Speaker. Nothing's official yet, but obviously knowing that that's coming is sort of what I would say would be bringing donors in at this point.
We should note that came out on all the leadership went together on the lobbyist podcast, Do Politics Better. So they actually announced that on a podcast.
Mm-hmm. But that was several months ago. So that's been
a year ago.
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
That was when they decided, and then it's we've all asked them about it over the months.
They sort of got together to back Hall. Mm-hmm. They broke it to the rest of the caucus. Mm-hmm. They seem to have pretty much widespread support, except for some people who maybe wanted another candidate. I think if you look at Representative Hall, his Twitter feed, he's constantly retweeting tweeting photos of him at fundraisers, speaking at different fundraisers for different House members that they're trying to support. So it's I think it's safe to say he's been doing this for a while, and he's really trying to demonstrate, his fundraising ability.
Yeah, and Speaker Moore set a high bar there, because in just the midterms, not even a presidential year, but the 2022 midterms, Moore himself brought in, I believe, over $3 million for the whole election. And I guess you would say Hall is on track to match that with $1.5 million in the second quarter. So we'll see.
So that really, just having the personality and getting people to want to give you money, want to give your caucus money is a big, that's a lot of, big financial shoes to fill to follow Moore, because he's had, over a decade to kind of build that. And Destin Hall is relatively new to the scene. He's in his late 30s,
37, yeah.
Yeah. So you also talked to the leader of the House on the Democratic side, Democratic leader Robert Reeves. So basically the House Republicans and Democrats do their money differently. So what's up on the Dem side?
Yeah, so just like Republicans, Democrats have a caucus campaign committee that's, intended for different members of the House. But what Reeves said is that traditionally Democrats, even when they had the majority, over a decade ago, relied less on the top of the leadership scale to be the top fundraisers for the caucus. And he said they relied more on individual members who may not have even had leadership positions to run fundraising and bring in those big numbers if that was what they were good at. So, Reeves himself has brought in a little over $400,000 so far this election, I think. And the caucus committee has also about $400,000 in it. So, trailing behind the Republicans. But if you look in some pretty consequential House races, like, Tricia Cotham, she was a Democrat turned Republican, and her Democratic challenger in her House races very, very significantly outraising her in the Mecklenburg County district that they're running in.
You and I both talked to Stephen Wiley this past week, the House GOP caucus director, not chair, right? And one thing that Wiley noted is that they built in the sustainable fundraising model. Obviously, he's Republican, so he thinks their model is better than the Democrats, and Reeves thinks his model is best. But that the Wiley's criticism of the House Dems is that they think only swing seats need money, and Republicans want to make sure that everybody has money, including swing seats, and that you need to step up your fundraising yourself. I mean, for everybody, but also yourself. And if you keep at that year after year after election cycle, then that is what that's the best, long-term strategy for that, and not just depend on money from national groups, but just that you need to do it yourself in the field. So that's the Republican take. I'm sure Reeves would disagree with how your conversation went.
Yeah. I also heard from Wiley about the Democrats perhaps relying too much on your Act Blues and your other national groups without building an infrastructure for fundraising here in North Carolina and being able to do it on your own. But I'm sure the caucus would say that they have their own history of prolific fundraisers. Retired
Roy Cooper is good at fundraising,
yeah.
right? But he's one person, yeah.
Former Representative Verla Insko, she retired a few years ago, I think, but she was a very prolific fundraiser for the party, and I'm not sure she even had a leadership position. I'd have to check that, but yeah.
Avi, what do you think? What does money actually translate into, though, right?
Well, money's a big factor.
What are you spending it on? How does it help you win?
You're spending it on exposure for your campaign, getting your message across, getting your name across in many cases, especially if it's a smaller district, just reminding voters that they have to, you're in their head. And, when people go to vote in November, they go all the way down the ballot and they take your name as well. So advertising, door knocking, all these things basically, and not just in the last, 2 or 3 months of the election cycle, obviously, but, 6 months or a year in advance.
All those signs at the intersection, if you pass day after day of who they are. One thing also that Stephen Wiley said as of Thursday afternoon when we're recording this is that Republicans will be airing TV ads starting in September for 10 different seats. So that's going to be a lot. And there's already digital stuff too.
And the undercurrent behind all of this is supermajority. That's the math that both sides are going to be doing. Republicans want to maintain it. Democrats want to break it. And depending on who the governor is, that'll matter maybe more or less depending on what position you're looking from. But that's the message that I was hearing.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the presidential race and polling. And with DNC this week, the impact of HBCUs and the Divine Nine on Kamala Harris's campaign, and what's up with the third party. So we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wrap your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with Kyle Ingram and Avi Bajpai. Avi, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Cook Political Report, if I'm saying that right, has a new presidential poll out, including North Carolina. People, lend a lot of credence, little credence to polls. Sometimes it shows trends overall. What do we need to know about the latest? And this is just the presidential race, I think.
This is just the presidential race, at least for this particular poll that came out this past week. I think the trend here and the thing to know is that Donald Trump was, for the last several months, when President Joe Biden was still in the race, Trump was leading in North Carolina. The polling averages that collect multiple polls and show the trend over time we're showing him leading, had a fairly comfortable lead, and that seems to be Kamala Harris seems to be erasing that quite a bit. This poll was conducted. We should note that this poll was conducted during the end of July, between July 26th and August 2nd. So it's not necessarily the most recent polling, but 7 swing states, including North Carolina, and the key finding is Kamala Harris is leading in North Carolina.
By how much?
They asked this question in an interesting fashion. One time asking voters in a 5-way race, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West and Jill Stein. In that matchup, Kamala Harris has a 2 percentage point lead, 46% to 44% for Trump. In a head-to-head matchup, it's 48 to 47 for Kamala Harris, so it's a 1-point lead. So it's still very much within the margin of error, which was for the North Carolina poll about, I want to say 4.9%, if I'm not mistaken. So very close. I think you could call it basically a statistical tie. But the fact that, Trump had been maintaining a 4, 5, 6% point lead for several months before, and that seems to have been erased. That's pretty significant. And this past week, of course, we saw Trump and Harris. I should say, while we're recording, Kamala Harris is scheduled to speak in Raleigh on Friday. But if that does happen, we'll have seen both candidates here in North Carolina within a couple of days of each other. So North Carolina really does seem to be ramping up as a true battleground state for both campaigns.
What do you attribute the change to?
Yeah, so that's addressed in the polling. This is the Cook Political Report, and their sort of editor-in-chief, Amy Walter, attributes this to two factors. One is really Democrats Democrats kind of coming back into the fold. So there was a bit of a drop in enthusiasm among Democrats in the last couple of weeks, month or so of the Biden campaign, of course, after that debate performance. So some of it is Kamala Harris sort of consolidating Democratic support and also improving her numbers with independent voters as well. So those two factors are what the Cook Political Report cites here. I think what my best guess is really it's this huge, pretty big ramp up in enthusiasm for Democrats. It's really, the media coverage, the sort of reinvigorated campaign for Kamala Harris, rallies across the country. It's all of that sort of pushing the numbers higher for her.
I think it's just really interesting that you've seen in recent years, I've at least heard people making the argument that North Carolina is no longer a purple state and we are really just red, sometimes masquerading as like a pseudo purple. But if these polls are any indication, I mean, it seems like we could be witnessing a change here in the electorate's voting patterns. And, it's been since 2008 that a Democrat won a presidential election in North Carolina, but they've still tried pretty significantly every year. And, Donald Trump won both of his elections here in North Carolina, but the lead dropped significantly from 2016 to 2020. So I don't know. It's really interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, in 2020.
Well, 2008 isn't just a Democrat, though. It was Barack Obama, right? Mm-hmm. So it was people that were excited to vote for him. So I have a story that we just recently published. You can read it at newsobserver.com if you haven't yet. Timed to our coverage of, DNC happening this week about really the galvanizing voting and mobilizing power and fundraising of people in Divine Nine, fraternities and sororities, which are the historic Black Greek letter organizations that, at the maybe now the most famous member currently living is Kamala Harris, who is an AKA. And really the difference of what I learned with the, interviews of everyone that's in these Divine Nine is that it's not something you just do as a college student, but it's something that's a community group the rest of your life. So there are 4 million Divine Nine members in the country, 2.5 million, according to those I've spoke to recently, that are active in their alumni chapters. You do a lot of things. So what we're going to be seeing this fall are Stroll to the Polls, which is a reference to the fraternity and sorority strolls, or the choreographed dances that they do at social gatherings, and just driving this excitement, as we were talking about with Harris. And then, of course, donations come with that. And the other thing, too, is that Kamala Harris, it was a big deal when she was a VP, but it's just different now if you could be president, with the fact that she went to Howard University, which, of course, is one of the most famous HBCUs. What that means for North Carolina, we have 10 HBCUs here. She's come through, previous times. She's been to A&T. She's been to Johnson C. Smith. She's been to Shaw. She has not been to NCCU. So we'll see if that is one of her stops and she comes to the Triangle. I understand from her campaign that she will be making HBCU campus stops. Whether or not we see that in North Carolina in these coming months remains to be seen. One other thing about the presidential race, and especially, Avi, what you were saying about that poll, is it's not just Harris and Trump. And this was going to be a segue of maybe a little longer explanation of Kyle's headliner of the week about those other candidates on the ballot.
Yeah, so my headliner of the week is North Carolina's presidential ballot is getting longer. Most likely going to be the most candidates on a North Carolina presidential ballot in the state's history ever. We're looking at 7 candidates. This comes after several months of controversy and conflict over Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West presidential campaigns. They were both initially denied their new party certification by the State Board of Elections. This kicked off a few months of back and forth with the board, legislative committees, going to court. But as things stand now, both of them will be on the ballot, in addition to the Libertarians, the Constitution Party, and then most likely the Green Party as well. So it should be a very long ballot this year.
So those margins we were talking about, it really, it's such a, cliche, it all comes down to turnout. But it really does, how many, when it's so tight, of who you're going to vote for traditionally or not. So, all right, I'm going to move on to mine and Kyle, Kyle just went, mine and Avi's joint headliner. If you remember on a recent podcast, we talked about the seasoning salt in the legislative snack bar and in the LOB snack bar. It's a big deal to the hundreds of people who go there. Such a big deal that one day it was gone, and we made it a headliner, and we heard some great news this week from Representative Servania. Shout out to Representative Servania, who is an alum of the podcast. We've had her on, I think, just a few months ago, who asked Paul Coble, the Legislative Services Officer who runs things over there, about it, and it's coming back. It may already be back. I learned a little more details. Well, first, Avi, let's just get your reaction to the excitement of its back. So.
I'm just going to say, it's a testament of, the power for free press. And it's great to see, it's not just something that was of concern to us when we were at the table at the snack bar, but really everyone. We had an outpouring of response.
We had, staff, lawmakers. This is a lot of people know about this. Well, the additional information I found out from Coble is that the cafeteria, the food services manager, didn't even realize what a thing this was until Coble asked him about it, because Representative Servania asked. Turns out they just hadn't ordered more, didn't think people cared. Well, they do. It's coming back, and might even be fresher since they were using up
Since apparently we have years old seasoning salt.
With so there'll be a new supply coming soon. So rest easy, North Carolina House and Senate members, staff, and visitors. The seasoning salt has returned, and we're doing journalistic impact here. And thanks for everyone at the legislative building that cares enough about this information. So I don't, if I could drop the mic without breaking it, I think we would just now on that. So it's one of our podcast accomplishments, in addition to all the serious stuff too. So, all right, for the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan here with Kyle Ingram and Avi Bajpai and producer Kevin Keister. We'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.